Hey everybody, today I wanted to make this video about a Beatles compilation released in 1976 called Rock and Roll Music. This was a compilation that was released by EMI and Capitol Records because they wanted to capitalize on the Beatles' growing popularity in the mid-1970s. So the Beatles had put out the Red and the Blue Greatest Hits albums in, I believe it was 1973, 1974 time period, and the label EMI and Capitol wanted to capitalize on those fantastic compilations and make another compilation. So they put together this album called Rock and Roll Music. So they got all the songs together and they sent it over to George Martin for his approval. George Martin listened to what the label had put together and was appalled at the sound quality. It did not sound good to him. A lot of times they used like second or third generation tapes to make this compilation. They also used the original stereo mixes of a lot of the early songs that were just, in George Martin's opinion and a lot of Beatle fans' opinion, not very good mixes. And the reason for that is because a lot of those recordings were done on 2-track tape. So George Martin only had 2 tracks to work with. So he would record all the instruments on one track and all the vocals and maybe a few overdubs on the other track. And those were then, of course, mixed into mono, where that's perfectly fine and it would sound great. But when you want to mix it to stereo, you don't have a lot of options as far as mixing it into stereo. The vocals are all stuck together, instruments are all stuck together. So a lot of those early mixes have the instruments all on one side and the vocals all on one side, which makes the recording seem kind of thin, and it's not a good balance for the music. So George Martin set out to remix all the songs on this Rock and Roll Music compilation. And that's what I want to talk about here, because that's a very, very special / big moment in the Beatles' history. Because the Beatles famously were very, very, and still are, very protective of their music and how it's treated. And in their contract with EMI, they had a very strict rule, which was none of their songs can be remixed without the approval of all 4 Beatles. And I don't know this, but I believe George Martin knew about that and figured he could get all the Beatles to approve if he was the one doing the remixing of these songs. So he did exactly that. He set about to remix all these songs, and what he did was when it came to these mixes that had like these crazy pans, he tried to put all the vocals in the center, which would create more of a balanced sound. And he also, for some reason, this is a bit of a mystery, a lot of the tracks, he reversed the stereo image. So the original tracks, like maybe they had the drums over here and the vocals over here. For some reason, on this compilation, he reversed it. So now the drums are over here and the vocals are over here. Kind of weird. But generally speaking, he remixed all the songs and made them better, in my opinion. And these are all very unique mixes because they were only released this one time on these compilations. Now, as far as the release goes, this is another bit of an interesting feature about this album. So George Martin did the mixes. He thought they sounded good. He signed off on them. Unfortunately, in the UK, they did not release the George Martin new remixes. They ended up putting them out as they were in the so-called original / bad mixes. But in the US, they did release the new George Martin remixes on this Rock and Roll Music compilation. This is the one I'm sure a lot of you are aware of. This is my copy. Not in the best shape, but it's in okay shape. And while I like this compilation, I think it's okay, the pressing on the US pressings are not very good in my opinion. The vinyl seems to be kind of noisy for me. Even if you get a clean copy, they didn't use the best vinyl, and just the pressing quality isn't all that great. But here's where it gets good. In the UK, in 1980, they did decide to release the George Martin remixes and break up the compilation into 2 separate albums, a Volume 1 and a Volume 2. This was the US release of this when they broke up the compilation. This happens to be volume 2. It's got this kind of interesting cover. But what I want to show you now is something very, very cool. This is volume 1, and this is a UK pressing released in 1980, which features George Martin's new mixes on here. And this is on EMI's MFP, Music for Pleasure budget label. Now, a budget label like this this is the first time a Beatles album was released on EMI's budget label. But this sounds very, very, very good. And I have it listed on the website now, and there's a reason for that. It's because this is a very rare item, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to Beatles mixes. If you've never heard this before, it's worth listening to, because these are different sounding mixes than you will be used to. A lot of people know that the Beatles in the last couple of years have had a lot of their albums remixed, like Sgt. Pepper, the 50th anniversary, the White Album, 50th anniversary, of course Abbey Road that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And then also they did like the Let It Be Naked album, which is a remix of the Let It Be Get Back sessions. And of course they did the Beatles 1 compilation and the Yellow Submarine song track. So they've done that before. But before that, before like 1999, I think that was when Yellow Submarine song track was remixed, before that, none of their music had ever been remixed at all, except for this. So this is a very rare record, in my opinion, when it comes to the Beatles catalog. And I think it's kind of a forgotten compilation as well, especially this UK pressing of this record. So I will show you what the record looks like here once I get it out. This record is in very, very nice shape. It's on this red and black Music for Pleasure label. And there's side 2. And this sounds so good. And while these are not the best, hands down best ways you can hear these songs, because of course there are better pressings. There are original UK pressings of these songs that sound excellent. This does sound very, very good. And really, the most important thing of this is for the Beatle collector that has heard almost everything but wants to have a little bit of a different and new listening experience. If that's you, this is the album for you. And the other great thing about this is I have this list on the website this is the most inexpensive record on the website right now. So if you head over to needlemeetsvinyl.com, check this out. I did a write-up on this. You can get some more information as far as what to listen for, what's different about this. And I would love in the comments below to know what some of you think about this. Do some of you own this album? I'm sure a lot of you own the US compilation. That's looks like this. And I'm sure probably some of you own the standalone Volume 1 and Volume 2 as well. But this one, like I said, this sounds so good. I just listened to this, and I just listed it on the website. And by the way, that's something I want to talk about. So I think what I want to start doing on the website is putting a lot more of these type of Beatle-related records on the website. These kind of not as easy to find anymore Beatle records that I think a lot of you Beatle collectors out there would like to have in your collection. And of course, as always, they will always be in excellent shape. The records will always sound very, very good because that's what it's all about, in my opinion. So you can keep an eye out for some more of these type releases. And I'm only going to do that with the Beatles, by the way. So all the other artists I have on there, it will all just be their normal studio albums and the best sounding pressings that you can find of those. But for Beatles albums, I will occasionally have a record like this on the website just because it's really cool and it has different mixes on here, which I think is very important. So that's it for now. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about this compilation, and check it out on the website, needlemeetsvinyl.com. And last but not least, before I go, I want to say I did release the Beatles White Album, and someone bought that within, I think, less than 24 hours of me having it on the website. So that's just, it blows my mind every time the Beatle albums, I post them on the website, and they just go so quickly. So when I post these on needlemeetsvinyl.com, and if you're interested, make sure to head there as soon as you can. and pick it up if you're interested, because they go very quickly. Beatle fans, including myself, are very ravenous when it comes to getting new Beatles stuff. So we are quick to the draw. And also, coming up later this week, and definitely by this weekend, I will be listing a very excellent copy of the Beatles' Revolver album. So stay tuned for that as well. So yeah, stay tuned for needlemeetsvinyl.com. Check out the website, and I'm always adding new stuff. And take a look at this Beatles Rock and Roll Music Volume 1 with different mixes on here that you probably have not heard. So that's it for now. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye.